Hey Nerf Herders, I'm Addy Thomas.
And I'm Ben Milton.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Certain Point of View. We're talking about the Star Wars galaxy, and we're exploring it together, 1 parsec at a time. I don't know if that's a unit of distance or time, but you know what? We don't really care, to be perfectly honest. We're not that kind of Star Wars podcast.
Yeah, if you're looking for like a real serious breakdown of anything, move along.
But don't forget, you can go to our website and you can check out all of our podcasts there that are part of the Certain Point of View family. Not only do we have this show, we've also got another pass with Case Aiken, who tweaks movies, revisits them, shuffles them around a little bit. Then we've also got Fun and Games with Matt and Jeff. They talk about the video gaming world every 2 weeks. Then we also got the Scruffy Nerf Herders, man. And that is such a fun series. It's an absolute blast to record. And it's also been an absolute blast to produce. I had to hand over some of my producing duties over to Case right now just because there's a lot happening. But it is such a fun show to make. If I could make more shows like that, I totally would. But you know what? We can do that if you actually would like to join us and be a part of what we do through these different podcasts, through Patreon. You can find out all about that and how you can contribute to Certain Point of View and be part of Certain Point of View. You can find out all of that on our website, certainpov.com. Also want to let you know that this episode wouldn't be possible without the help of our good friend Maria Monzone. She's actually my insurance agent, works for Liberty Mutual. She has gotten me some amazing quotes on renter's insurance and car insurance, and she has been an absolute pleasure to work with whenever I need to get insurance, which is definitely one of those things that, you know, you just kind of begrudgingly get, and you never think about, oh, well, I have a good time while I get something like this. But Maria always makes it a lot more of a much easier process to go through. Very clear what you're going into, especially in that nebulous world that is insurance. You can find out how to get in touch with Maria if you also go to our website, certainpov.com. Be sure to click on the support section and click on friends. Let's go ahead and jump into this episode. So 2 weeks ago, we talked about some of the news coming out at Comic-Con, and we had the Clone Wars announcement that it's returning. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the different ideas about that in a little bit. But before we get to that, you know, we tend to like talking about a lot of different nerd news, but with this show specifically with Star Wars news, and you know, with Star Wars now that we've come to Star Wars news, it's a little quieter on the nerd news front. Although, Ben, I actually wanted to talk to you personally about this today. I don't know if you saw this, but it looks like Netflix is this is Marvel, so it's sort of the half brother of Star Wars right now in the Disney family. But Marvel Netflix is apparently for Iron Fist, they're doing 10 episodes instead of 13, and it looks like they may move to that in the near future with all the shows.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
dude, how are we not getting a cut? We clearly know what we're talking about here.
I mean, we've been preaching that. Even Daredevil season 1. I was a little less of an adopter on season 1, but once after on Jessica Jones, which was the second series out, I was kind of like, okay, I can see your point of view there. So.
Always tell you don't have to straw the taffy out so much for any of these shows, and they're better served since it's not, it's costing them less to produce and make then. You know what I mean? So your costs on the show goes down by 3 episodes, and, you know, everybody's binging it anyway, so it's not like you have time to fill, you know?
Right.
It's not like you care whether or not people... how much time, I mean, you care how much time people, because it means you're doing a good job, how much time people watch or see your stuff, but it's not like regular TV where, like, they're desperate to have as many butts in front of, you know, looking in front of the television, looking to see those commercials.
Well, the CEO kind of explained that it was sort of born out of an old TV, like the cable standard of like 13 episodes is what you typically get for a drama in its first season. So it was kind of born out of that standard deal, and since then, I think a lot of those shows were still handling some of those old were some of those old deals. So now they're starting to get a chance to move away from that. What I'd like to see is sort of a non-standard type of thing where, and I'd like to see this also like when we get to Jon Favreau to bring this around to Star Wars and to, as we get more storytelling, I'd like to see more non-standard lengths for shows. I want the content to dictate the length, not necessarily like, all right, well, this is what you're given. Like because I felt for the first time maybe this season of Luke Cage, I didn't feel any slowdown. Like I felt the only slowdown was for dramatic reasons in this past season of Luke Cage. Like I liked every moment of this season. I liked the pacing of it. I'm sure some people felt stretched out by the end, but I liked what they did as they stretched out a little bit of that story and as you delved into some of the other characters. And I think that makes sense with Luke Cage's cast of characters. So I'd like to, but again, like Iron Fist season 2, especially after what happened in the first season, you know what? Maybe tailor it back a little, trim it back a little bit, regain some confidence.
Basics. Yeah, get back to basics and really help people fall. Just knock a really solid season out so that people can really fall in love with that character the way they have the others. I think that's a great idea. And then bringing it back to Jon Favreau and what you're talking about as far as like, what Star Wars can do on the Disney streaming service, and dictating the length of a season by the content you have. I mean, just adopting that BBC model. Like the BBC does as many seasons as it needs to tell the story at once, and if that's 2 seasons, the show's over. Like they don't continue shows on because they're doing well in the ratings. They're like, that's the story we had, we're done, we're out, next show. And maybe if we could adopt that mentality for these streaming services of like, hey, just, if it takes 6 episodes, it takes 6 episodes. Just, tell the best story. It doesn't have to be 10, 13, 9, whatever arbitrary number, it doesn't matter because we're streaming it now. Like it's a different business model, so you can play by different rules. Absolutely. I think that'd be great. I think that would be awesome of just like never really knowing how long a season's going to be, how many seasons is it going to go. It just that you're getting the very best that they can do as far as storytelling go. And so there doesn't have to be any filler. So writers and producers don't feel like they've got to put in extra fluff in there just to stretch things out. It's only going to make a better story,
Absolutely. Well, let's get to the big piece of Star Wars news that just came out. So Star Wars Episode 9, we have a cast announcement. So we also know that Star Wars will begin filming on August 1st. I think this episode is already... Yeah, so when we recorded this is on July 31st. So that's tomorrow is when they start filming. But this episode will be out the following week. J.J. Abrams is returning, of course, to direct the final installment of the Skywalker saga. So we have confirmation that this is the final episode of the Skywalker saga, and he co-wrote this screenplay with Chris Terrio. Returning cast members are going to include, of course, Daisy Ridley. We have Adam Driver, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, Lupita Nyong'o, Domhnall Gleeson, Kelly Marie Tran, Ioannis Tamo, and Billy Lord. Joining the cast of Episode 9 are some new characters. We have Naomi Ackie, Richard E. Grant, and Kerry Russell. And then, of course, we have also returning, we're going to have Mark Hamill. We're going to have Anthony Daniels, Billy D. Williams. The other big piece of news as far as this casting is concerned is Leia Organa will once again be played by Carrie Fisher, so we're not having her, recast. They're going to be using unreleased footage that was shot for The Force Awakens. Abrams said, "We desperately loved Carrie Fisher. Finding a truly satisfying conclusion to the Skywalker saga without her eluded us. So we were never going to recast or use a CG character. With the support and blessing from her daughter, Billy, we have found a way to honor Carrie's legacy and role as Leia in Episode 9 by using unseen footage we shot together in Episode 7. The other big piece of news on this casting announcement is, of course, composer John Williams, who has scored every chapter in the main Skywalker saga, will be returning for the Episode 9 soundtrack as well. So
nice.
So we definitely got a couple things to unpack there.
Yeah, there's a lot there. I don't think there's any big surprises, though. I wasn't surprised by any of it. Were you?
The only surprise I would say is the Carrie Fisher one.
Okay.
Because I wasn't. I mean, just because I had no idea what they were gonna do. I actually never thought about extra footage from maybe The Last Jedi and from Force Awakens. But I think that's a great idea.
Speculation because you don't know exactly what was shot and what was cut. So you're like, well, who knows? I don't know what story beats were lost.
Right, but you know what? But I'm glad that they found some way of working her in. I would have been content at this point. I was already sort of content with saying, all right, they were probably going to have to move on from her altogether. That. Maybe it'd be something in the crawl. Maybe they just say, "Oh, and she died." Or maybe we joined them at the memorial service for Leia, or something like that. Something just kind of wrapping up her, what happened. So you get this nice little eulogy for her and for Carrie Fisher in another way. So, but that they wouldn't necessarily work her into the story, and they aren't here. I still kind of imagine that that's probably how this is going to be used. Like, you have generic footage of her in a command center and it gets blown up or something like that. It's still kind of what I imagine happening. I don't think there's going to be a quiet happy ending for Princess Leia at this point.
No, it would be very surprising that they would have footage that they could do that with.
Yeah,
it's possible, but I mean, I doubt it. I think we're probably going to get something similar to that of like either her walking off into the sunset, a la what's the car racing one they did with Paul Walker, Fast and Furious, when he died.
Yeah,
they kind of gave him like that moment to drive off into the sunset and used CGI and his brother to do the acting and just pasted his face over his brother. I could see them doing something similar to that.
Right. Although they're saying they're not going to use CG, so.
Well, yeah.
Maybe they'll supplement it. I don't know. We never know with that.
Yeah, what does that really mean? That means we're not going to use any CG?
Right.
Or we're not going to use like we did for
Tarkin.
Rogue One.
Yeah, and then it seems like they're definitely clearly not going the Tarkin route in that case. So, which I was fine with Tarkin. I didn't have as much of an issue as some people did, but I can see where people would. So, the other thing to unpack is, and we kind of knew it already, but Mark Hamill is going to be back. So, Force Ghost Luke. We're getting Force Ghost Luke.
Or was he a Force Ghost all along, and we've already had Force Ghost Luke? This is, great news, but not a surprise at all. As soon as he said, "I'll see you around, kid," I was like, he'll be back.
Yeah. Well, considering that, like, the Star Wars fan base and how divided they are right now about this, like, there were some people who feel like, oh, well, we'll never get to see him again. He's done this. There's no Skywalkers at all in this story anymore. Apparently, obviously conveniently leaving out Kylo Ren, but, obviously that's... that's
not important. Don't let good facts ruin a good nerd rage on the internet. Like, you can't. You just got to step aside.
Right. So
no, I'm glad Luke's back. It'll be cool. I'm curious to see what he has to teach. If he's going to spend more time with Rey, or if he's going to spend time trying to once again redeem the unredeemable of his nephew. Right. I'm curious to see how it all plays out, and I'm most curious to see Kylo's story. Like, to me, he's the most interesting person in the movies this time. I'm not as interested to find out what happens to Rey. I think like we kind of know what happens to Rey now. Like her test as a hero was this past movie when she was tempted by Kylo to come with him and destroy, and rule the galaxy together.
Right.
And she refused. So I feel like it's kind of done. Like her story's kind of done. She's still going to be the hero and the person that kind of drives the story forward. But I'm curious to see whether or not they redeem Kylo or not, or if they let him fall this time, or if they find a middle ground between the two of them, and really do resolve the Jedi Sith and really truly do bring balance.
I agree. I think he provides the biggest range of opportunity of what can really push forward this next story. You have a very interesting villain. Sure, I know plenty of people will disagree on that, but what I like is that we have an unstable villain here. You have the potential for infighting within his own faction. You have someone who can turn on his own people on a dime. He's already proven that he'll take out the entire throne room of the guy who was his master. And all the guards who were there. So he's for all the talk of Vader, being respected and feared. Like, he killed a lot of his own staff. And I've heard people kind of nitpick the idea, like, oh, why would anybody, like, it doesn't make any sense why anybody would follow Kylo Ren. It's like, but, Vader was pretty unhinged too at times, he would definitely sacrifice.
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm interested to see what they can do with Kylo Ren and what the end of the Skywalker saga means, and what kind of collective meaning that means for the entire series of 9 movies. Because Abrams has also kind of talked about how he wants to tie all 9 movies together, like tie back to the prequels in an interesting way. So I'd be interested to see what is the thing that he wants to tie back to.
Trade wars.
Right. This is all going to end with a trade dispute. And we're back where we started, guys. Everything is cyclical.
Those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it, Addy. That's how this goes. And that's the whole lesson of Star Wars. Be a good student of history.
We're going to end with a post-credit scene where Rey and Finn are sent on a diplomatic mission to negotiate a peace treaty with a federation of trade.
Oh, and only Rose can fix the engines along the way. Yeah, I have no idea where we're gonna go. Going back to Kylo Ren, though, what's your take? Do you feel like they're gonna redeem him or no? What's your prediction, like right now on the spot?
No, I think no. I think it's a tragic story at the end of the day. I think if the closest you get is maybe a realization in his dying moments that he's wrong, but not a redemptive moment. I don't
the same way. Like, it's kind of like a Vader thing, though. Yeah.
A little different, because Vader does have a moment of redemption. His final act is still a right act, but I think more the tragedy of Kylo Ren is maybe the realization that of what he was really after, maybe, and that he kept on chasing the wrong things. So maybe more of a realization at the end, but not redemption. I think there's a difference between the two. I don't know. Does that make sense, or am I a little?
It does. No, it does. It makes a lot of sense. It's a good argument. I disagree with you. I think, again, you're looking for Batman to die at the end of the trilogy in this scenario, and I don't think they're gonna do in this.
Do you think Kylo Ren survives this movie?
No, but I can see him having a very similar fate to that of Vader.
Yeah,
like his last redemptive act is a heroic one. Which,
you know what, I would be totally fine with that too. To be perfectly honest, it just to me, it's. I'm not concerned with this movie like, oh, well, they did it with Vader and they did it better with Vader or anything like that. Right. If as long as that's earned by the experiences the character goes through, then absolutely. Because here's a character that we've seen tempted by the light. He has used that exact phrase in The Force Awakens, which is one thing that I think makes him so fascinating, is that he has this opposite sense of the world where, the light is bad and the darkness is good, and that he is honestly very strong in his purpose, and almost in the way that that the hero is tempted by darkness, he's tempted by good. So I like he's clear, like there's clearly some sort of like psychopathic type of thought processes where he doesn't quite think right. You kind of so far they've kind of proved, like they've that's the story they've told so far, is that that like you tried to have the mother's love say, you know what, there's still hope for him, but obviously he kills his father. You know, he has the moment where he wavers with, you know, and he doesn't pull the trigger on Leia. And you still see him trying to, like, he wants to rebuild the galaxy in the way that he thinks it should be built and the way he thinks Vader wanted to build it. But he's still missing the overall point, because I think what's interesting is Rey and Kylo Ren in The Last Jedi are both presented with, here's the state of the galaxy. Things are screwed up. They're good guys, they're bad guys. Good guys are doing some bad things too. So are they really that good? Like this order, you know, the Jedi Order is not necessarily effective. So can we really trust that? Is that the way to go? And Rey's response is, yes, let's reaffirm this. Sure, we need to rebuild it. Which I think the overall point of that movie is tear down the structure, but rebuild and reaffirm what's right. Or is it the nihilistic Kylo Ren way of tear it all down? It is all meaningless, and there's nothing of redeeming value in that structure. Like, what do you salvage from that? And he doesn't see anything to salvage, whereas Rey does. That's sort of what I've seen so far, and absolutely that could still go in a different direction in this next episode, and that's fine, but that's sort of what I'm seeing.
Well, I think, you know, one of the clues that I think about when you talk about this is going back to what JJ said, in that he wants to kind of wrap this all up and make it all sort of one long cohesive story, sort of in George's view.
So we'll end with a pod race between Kylo Ren and Rey.
I hope not. God, I hope not.
Sebulba's coming back. He's the true villain. Sebulba was Snoke.
All along. He just evolved. He finally grew straight. He was like a cephalopod or something, and just had to straighten out. All right.
Sorry.
No, I think though, like if you're talking about, like, I want to end this story, I think the odds are a lot greater that you want to end this on a heroic, hopeful note than you do on a, well, it's all fucked. Like, that doesn't feel very Star Wars to me. I think like, you know, when you look at what Star Wars is and how people think about it and the kind of storytelling that it is, it's a heroic storytelling. It's a hero's journey story. So I think it's going to end on a positive note,
which I think so too. I just think it's not going to end on a positive note from the perspective of Kylo Ren. I think Rey does some. I think they're. Here's what I'll say about Rey is I can see why you feel her hero's journey is a little bit done at this point. I think there is more to it, because I think she's still got to find new purpose for what the Jedi have brought.
But from a hero's perspective,
from an individualistic,
she has that purpose. She has gone out into the wilderness. She has found her master. The master died. She gained a boon, and now she's brought it back to the tribe in order to lead the tribe to whatever, you know, that's her purpose, is now to, you know, she's the last Jedi. She is the one who's now going to be leading helping lead the resistance.
Right, but then she's still got to be, to compare it to Moses, like, once you get the children of Israel out of Egypt, there's still 40 years of wandering. Not that we...
Oh, I'm not saying that there aren't things for her to do, but she has a purpose.
Yeah.
You said she didn't have a purpose.
Well, I think...
She has a purpose.
It's not that... I think she has to figure out exactly how that purpose plays out. Because there's still, like, okay, so what does restoring the Jedi Order mean?
Well, I don't know if she's... Well, I mean, she's the last Jedi, but I mean, whether or not... She didn't say she was going to restore the Jedi Order.
Right. And
we don't know if she is or isn't.
And that's the thing. Like, is she going to be the last Jedi and let the Jedi Order wrap up, like the way Luke was kind of saying the Jedi Order has to end? Or does she rebuild the Order? Does she train new Jedi? Like, we seem to have gotten this indication that there will be more Jedi, especially with Broom Kid.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's certainly force sensitive, and the other big clue there is that she has the original Jedi books.
Right. So
that she kept those. So, I mean, like, you wouldn't have her keep those if she was like, I'm done with the Jedi.
Right. So, yeah, I guess I'm interested to see how that plays out as far as, like, what form does that take as well. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, there's, honestly, what excites me is that there's not a, like, I felt with Last Jedi, there were a lot of major predictions I could make. And even with Force Awakens, there was a lot of major predictions that we could make. This one, I have almost no clue. And that makes me so excited.
Yeah, I like that too. And it all, you know what it does? It speaks volumes to just how surprising in many ways that The Last Jedi was.
Right.
You know, and just that, like, it really turned everything on its end, and we're like, okay, now I don't know what's like. I was so sure about what was happening after The Force Awakens because it was so paint by the numbers obvious. Like, okay, and I loved that. I thought that was great. And then the next movie, The Last Jedi, was like so, like, it was like, oh, this is what you expect. You will not get that, no matter what. And yeah, so now, like, you know, you could go back to a purely paint-by-numbers plot point movie, which is typical of JJ, and get, like, a lot of enjoyment out of it because you're not expecting it. You don't know what's coming, and it's amazing. I love that.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and move into moving past the cast news and sort of our expectations of Episode 9. We've got the Clone Wars, and we'll talk about, like, what are we kind of expecting from the show, but from a slightly different perspective, because we did kind of mention that. We know that we're getting 12 episodes in this final season for the Clone Wars that'll be on Disney streaming service, probably expecting it late next year, 2019. What the cool thing is, though, from past Star Wars celebrations and Comic-Con, other events, Dave Filoni and other sources of storytelling, we've kind of been teased with ideas of what would have happened in those last few seasons of Clone Wars, because it was, so we had a sixth half. The season 6 was pretty much a half season. That's the one that went direct to Netflix, and they had it actually written out till season 8. Through season 8 is how far it had been written out. So just because of the timetable for animation and how long it takes to get all of that done, they have to work out a little further ahead. But we're going to go ahead and kind of run down some of the stories that did get adapted and some of the stories that we've heard about, so that you can get an idea of, like, okay, what's happening in this, and what's the likelihood. We're actually grabbing this from a blog from io9.com, written by James Whitbrook, and it's called Everything We Know About the Untold Stories of Clone Wars. So I just wanted to make sure to credit that, because I've seen these in fragments and have read pretty much about all of these, but it was nice seeing it all pulled together, so that we kind of have something so we're interested to see what we're going to move into going into Clone Wars. So the first big thing is we've had the Son of Dathomir comic series, the 4-issue comic series that was published by Dark Horse, and it was one of the last Star Wars comics to be published by Dark Horse, because once that deal went through with Disney, they handed it over to Marvel to start setting up their Star Wars universe. Now, this particular issue, this 4-issue series, was a pretty pivotal story arc in the Clone Wars, because this was Darth Sidious basically eliminating one of his big dark side rivals, and that's the Night Sisters on Dathomir, led by Mother Talzin. And in it, you see Palpatine go to war against Talzin, and Maul, with the help of Dooku and Grievous, eliminating this huge threat. This is right after Savage Opress is killed, which was in at the end of season 5 of Clone Wars, and basically it forces Maul to go on to retreat to his stronghold on Mandalore, and so he still has his criminal empire that he's assembled with Mandalore and with all the criminal guilds that he was working with, but he isn't quite in the Crimson Dawn phase yet. either. But he still has the Darksaber at this point. So this story is still, fortunately, part of Disney canon. Seems unlikely that this will get adapted now that it's in sort of a pretty concrete format. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I don't see it. Like, they have a limited number of shows that they're doing. They didn't get like, oh, hey, you're getting another 12 or another 2 seasons of the show. They got 12 episodes or something
exactly.
like that.
It's not even a full season. Yeah.
Right. So like they're limited in the stories they can tell. So I don't know, like, unless it's Anakin or Ahsoka, I don't see, or Obi-Wan, I don't see them doing something that they've already told in another format now.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense to me. It's great. I would, if they had the time, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, because it's some cool story.
It's a great story, but it's a great story in the comic books too.
Right.
So it's not a must do. My money would be that we're not going to see this part of the story.
Yep. So this next story is one that I've just picked up, and a good friend of mine has been recommending I read this for years. And this is Dark Disciple, written by Christy Golden. It adapts some of Filoni's scripts and wraps.
Is that the same Christy Golden that's
working for Blizzard?
WoW?
Yep.
Oh,
exact
okay.
same as
interesting.
Yep, she's the one. She did the Arthas novel and a bunch of.
See, now I kind of want to read this book because she's a pretty good writer.
Yeah, I thought I made sure to sneak that in because I remember you enjoyed what she does with WoW a little bit. So
yeah.
So maybe we'll read Dark Disciple.
Well, maybe I'll check out this. All right, I'll check it out.
She's written.
I'll give it a shot.
A number of Star Wars books, if I remember right. So, but she definitely wrote Dark Disciple. Focuses on Asajj Ventress. It's a very fascinating story. I'm picking it back up right now, but sort of the basic idea of it is that it's adapting what was intended to be an 8-episode storyline in Clone Wars. And it was expected for the 6th season. So, because what happens is the Jedi Council decides they try to make a decision to bring an end to the Clone Wars quickly and effectively by deciding to assassinate Count Dooku.
Wait. Don't give me spoilers, man.
Okay, this story's been out for a while, man.
Oh, all right.
Well,
fair enough.
Here's so I'll throw this out here, just the basic pitch of it. They want to assassinate Count Dooku, so they give Jedi Quinlan Vos, who we have seen in another episode of Clone Wars. He and Obi-Wan had to work together. They have 2 very different styles, but they were investigating sort of a story revolving around. I think Hero the Hutt, the sort of flamboyant Hutt. I don't know if you remember him.
Oh yeah, no, I like him.
And when he got murdered by Snice Noodles is also in that episode, if you remember.
Yes.
But Voss and Obi-Wan sort of have an odd couple type pairing as they investigate this series and the series of mysteries, and they're a little too late because they're not able to save Hero. But regardless. This Jedi Quinlan Vos is brought into this mission to basically befriend Ventress and to basically work with her to try to assassinate Dooku, because she's already made several attempts on Dooku's life, but she's never had the backing of a Jedi or the Jedi Council. But they kind of want him to, since he does a lot of undercover missions for the Jedi Council, they kind of want him to do that. So I'm gonna leave it at that. So you don't have any spoilers. You just have sort of the basic pitch of the story.
All right.
So, and you know what? It's a good idea. So, because I have this on my Kindle. So if you want to read it, Ben.
Yeah, I'll probably get to Amazon tonight and pick it up.
Right. I was reading it on the train today on the way home. So as my excitement for Clone Wars has been reignited. So and I've been doing a lot to resist watching the series from the beginning again. This would be my 3rd time watching the series.
That's enough.
Yeah,
it is amazingly light on TV right now.
Yeah,
I'm only watching 2 shows right now.
Am I what?
I'm watching Preacher and Cloak and Dagger.
Oh yeah, I'm just watching Cloak and Dagger. That's it. And I'm behind an episode, so yeah, which is I'm fine
really
with that.
looking forward to this finale, this season finale. I'm actually looking forward to.
Yeah,
because I was starting to lose a little interest, and now it's starting to come back. For
the
me
last
too,
couple episodes I really liked, so I need to catch up on that. on that. So let's move on to another story, and you can actually watch these. So this is the Crystal Crisis on Utapau. Utapau is the planet that Obi-Wan is on when he fights Grievous in Revenge of the Sith. It's got those like the big like pits, multi levels, and he's got the lizard creature that he's riding on. So we see them go to that planet before we hit Revenge of the Sith, and we have actually these released as early stage rough animatics. So it has all the voice acting from the Clone Wars cast, just really rough animation throughout it. But I've watched them through. I actually enjoy these. So there was 4 episodes. They're all released. Again, you can find them on StarWars.com if you want to check them out. But the idea is that you find out that there is a murder of a Jedi Master on this particular planet, and Obi-Wan uncovers a plot by General Grievous to harvest a large kyber crystal on the planet.
How big is it?
Well, essentially, this kyber crystal is sort of part of Palpatine's earliest attempts to get crystals for the Death Star super laser. So we start seeing that. But this feature, what I really like about the story is like this plot is good, but this has some fantastic interaction between Obi-Wan and Anakin, especially in the absence of Ahsoka and what that's starting to do to Anakin. And you get some really good stuff from Anakin as he's getting a little closer to Revenge of the Sith and getting a little closer to some of the decisions he makes. Like to me, this really fleshes out that turn in an amazing way. And I think it's worth watching these in rough animatic form. I don't expect these episodes to get produced, but you kind of imagine that if they still have the animatics for this, like, hey, it's partially done, guys. Why not just finish it out for us, you know?
Well, yeah.
It's been out for a while, so it's hard to say.
It's been out for a while. Why again, you only have 12 episodes. Do you want to waste, 4 of them on a story that it's already told,
yeah.
And people have already seen?
Yeah, if you were hardcore enough.
People would be like, you said we were getting 12 new episodes. All you did was just color in the circles. Yeah. Come on, man. The butt hurt would be...
It would be too much.
It would be a lot, and it would be legit. That's one where I kind of go, yeah, that's kind of a cop-out.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't see this one happening either, to be honest with you.
Well, along with that, and I guess we can agree on that as well for this next set of episodes, is The Bad Batch, which...
Yep.
Another really fun series of episodes. So we've seen in Clone Wars, we've seen what happens when you have sort of the Bad Batch of clones where they're a little bit more defective. You know, you use them as janitors and at the training facilities and stuff like that. You use them for other tasks. So you have those kind of clones and some really interesting, some really cool storytelling of everybody doing their part to help in the war effort. But now you have some of this where the clone DNA mutates a little bit to the point where now you have basically a super squad. You basically have the A-team of clones and a special forces squad, Clone Force 99, which was entitled The Bad Batch, and they start investigating a separatist... they've been using a Secret Republic battle strategy that was only known to a couple clone commanders, including Echo, who had died earlier in the series. Apparently, though, you find out he wasn't dead, and he's been kidnapped by the Separatists, and he's been kept alive. It's a really pretty horrific moment where they discover him, and he's hooked up to all these tubes and everything. He's basically tortured, and they're using his brain to harvest all these strategies. So it's a great story if you like that kind of that special forces squad type of thing. One of the guys even looks like Rambo. It looks like that guy is going to make it into this next series of episodes, though, because we do see him in that trailer that Filoni that they released. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, because
awesome.
He's the guy standing next to Rex in that shot where they're going into a hangar. Okay. So it might make it in it. We'll see.
Oh, cool.
So,
well, yeah, it would be kind of cool to have because that was just one episode.
It was a series of episodes.
Was it?
Yeah.
How many was it? Was it 2 or 3?
Yeah, 3, maybe even 4.
Oh wow, I didn't remember it being that long. I thought it was pretty. I guess
it moved. It moved quick.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, again, we've kind of seen it.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to think that they'll do.
Yeah,
that
considering it's been out.
Average.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now we're going to get into the phase of stories where we don't actually have material that you can read or watch. So one of the stories that had been talked about was Boba Fett versus Cad Bane, which was an arc that we were starting to get a little bit more realized. We saw a young, angry Boba Fett learning the ropes. Still not a very good bounty hunter, but he's learning from different people, including Cad Bane. He's rolling with people like Bosk and or Singh. So he's getting some good training in the world of bounty hunting. We've yet to see some of those skills used properly, but it seems like that might have been a possibility late in the Clone Wars. One of these ideas were that Boba Fett would square off against Cad Bane because Cad Bane was trying to teach him the harsh realities of being a bounty hunter, and it would have included Boba Fett finally putting on the suit of Mandalorian armor that we're so familiar with, and apparently would have even answered something that we didn't need answered necessarily, but how Boba Fett got the dent in his helmet, and apparently it came from Cad Bane's shot. So.
I like that.
Yeah, it would have been nice as a surprise, but knowing it beforehand is a little like, oh.
Well, it's also kind of lame, like, because when Filoni showed us this, like, the animation, that they have a little bit of animation for it, and it's even cruder than, like, from the Bad Batch and from the Crisis on Utapau.
Yeah.
Like, it's really rudimentary. Like, it's not even, it's like stop motion. It's horrible. So, like, that just makes it look even dumber.
Right.
But I think, like, if they did it in like the full animation, I think it would have been a very cool nod and answer a cool question. I mean, that's cool. I like both of those characters. Like,
that's true.
That would be cool.
You know what? I'm always down for more Cad Bane.
Yeah, for sure. Now, that being said, this is not going to be. You're not going to have like 4 episodes dedicated to this story.
Yeah, because you got to stay focused, like you said, on Ahsoka and Anakin.
And Obi-Wan.
Right. Especially for this. We're going to get Siege of Mandalore. We know that for sure. So,
and you're gonna get Wreck. And Wreck, like all the big names.
Yeah.
Like Boba and Cad have been supporting characters in this story. Now, that being said, they're not going to get 4 episodes dedicated to them, but I do think they are going to be included in the next story, because I think we are getting that story, and this is going to be tied into it.
When you say next story, what do you mean? Oh, the next one I'm talking about. Okay, yes, the next one I've got on the docket is Ahsoka in the Underworld. So this one we get Ahsoka right after she left the Jedi Order. We see that she tries to kind of figure out what her new life is going to be like, and she sort of works in the underworld also on a level of Coruscant known as level 1313, which is a particularly seedy level of it, and at the time was supposed to be a really cool video game that is still one of those legendary, projects that never happened.
Yeah.
So
that we saw just enough of to make us go, oh my God.
Right. So it's a little unfortunate that, that this also got canceled. But one thing that's very fascinating. Let me back up here. So it includes a romance that she had with a smuggler in the underworld as well. Now, what I don't know is I have not read the Ahsoka novel. I don't know how much of this story makes it into that, because I do know that novel picks up right after those episodes and does talk about her exploring the underworld. So this might be another one that doesn't make it in because of that.
Oh, because of the Ahsoka novel.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, but I feel like they maybe can tell other things other than the. Well, no, I think they gotta tell.
They've got to tell some Ahsoka for sure.
They gotta tell Ahsoka, they gotta tell Anakin, they gotta tell Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and maybe some Rex.
For sure.
Yeah.
And some Rex. And they gotta resolve Rex, yeah.
What I do think, this next story, this is an Ahsoka story that I do think we'll see. So there's a mystery under the Jedi Temple, and this is the story that would have reunited Ahsoka and Anakin, but in the Jedi Council, because she finds in the ruins beneath the Jedi Temple and ancient Sith Temple, hiding a source of untold dark power, and she believes this is the source of the evil that's sort of clouding the Jedi Council and what they're able to see, and help them find the mysterious Dark Lord, of course, being Darth Sidious, and apparently it leads to an encounter that she has, Obi-Wan and Anakin have. They encounter Darth Sidious himself in the course of this story. So it'd be very interesting to see, if how Obi-Wan and Anakin, what happens when they come across Darth Sidious,
Right, yeah. I see this one happening, too.
Yeah, I'm very fascinated by this one. This next one, though, I actually think this one will happen. This is Yoda on Kashyyyk. So we have Yoda, Yoda, of course, has very good relations with the Wookiees. And as we know from Revenge of the Sith, he rolls with them during that battle towards the end of the Clone Wars. And it's a story about the Republic lending aid to Kashyyyk in a battle to defend themselves from an alliance between the Separatists and the Trandoshan slavers. So, because the Trandoshan slavers, of course, have hunt and capture Wookiees and sell them as slaves, what I think, though, is, one, this fleshes out and helps bridge a little bit of the gap for the end, into Revenge of the Sith, a little bit. You get Wookiees, so that's a plus. Okay. We get Tarful and a young Chewbacca. But here's the thing that I think might actually sell it on getting it, is that this story would have delved into Wookiee culture and would explore the their sort of spirituality and their connections to the Rorschach trees and the animals of their homeworld. There's supposed to be this whole thing about Tarful sort of kneeling on one of the trees and paying homage before the battle, and some of the clone troopers are all like, well, what the hell's going on here? And Yoda sort of explains a little bit of it, and we've got the reason why I kind of expect that is because of the Bendu, and we've seen this sort of different in the Night Sisters, and Filoni has been kind of, I think in one of the ways he's sort of a great spiritual successor to what George Lucas has done is sort of the way they talk about sort of cultural anthropology and sort of spirituality in the Star Wars universe. I think they're very good at doing those kind of things. So that's why I kind of expect this story to potentially make it in.
I definitely want this story to make it in.
Yeah.
I really want this story to make it in.
And you get an actual Clone War battle here as well. So, it feels like it's a big enough event to make it into this last episode, this last 12 episodes.
Yeah. I the thing that keeps it on the cusp for me is the 12 episode limit.
Yeah.
Is that a good enough story? Do you have enough time to really wrap up the stories that you want to wrap up? And does this really help you conclude anybody's story?
Right.
And it might.
Yeah.
It might.
I feel this could be a good 1 or 2 episode arc right here.
One at the most, with only 12 episodes.
Yeah.
You just don't have the time to tell stories that don't matter.
Well, maybe, because Dave Filoni likes putting in what other people like to call filler episodes. So we'll see.
There's a lot of droid episodes.
Speaking of which, there is a potential Captain Rex R2-D2 team up that was basically billed as Top Gun. I know you don't want this.
I don't want this.
I won't be surprised if this makes it in. I actually think this will make it in.
This was probably going to make it in. But I don't want. This is not what I want.
But it's basically a Top Gun homage where Rex is forced to fly a mission in a starfighter with R2 after he and some clone troopers got into an argument with some of their buddies in the Republic Navy. So then it ends up that the story gets a little extended when Rex crashes on one of the moons of Ryloth, and he has to struggle to survive with only R2 for company. So, I guess R2 basically becomes his Wilson? I don't know. So, yeah, yeah. I do have a strong feeling this one will make it in.
It probably will. They may cut that last part and just have,
keep it light.
I don't.
Yeah. Because you know what I do. Because here's the thing. I do think a light episode is sometimes important just before you go into a dark story. So, like, this could happen right before you go into the actual siege of Mandalore. You know, I feel like that might still... Because you still... Like, this is still for kids. You want some fun episodes, you know. So, we'll see.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Even the Lost Missions that did make it to Netflix, we got those Jar Jar episodes. So
yes, we did. Yep. Nobody's perfect.
And then here's another set of episodes that could have happened here. This one's a little bit more controversial. I am expecting this not to happen, but I would be very interested to see if it does. And that is sort of functionally the Yuzhong Vong, who are present in the extended universe, basically get canonized in this story. So we don't necessarily know what is like the whole premise of the story, but it's a little bit more X-Files alien encounter with a lone Yuzhong Vong scout ship. And so it wouldn't go as far as making the Vong like immune to the Force, but it does sort of hints that the Vong are out there and they're trying to kind of figure out, all right, what's the strength of the Republic and and its Force users, and maybe the Vong are the present. This like in current Star Wars storytelling, they are hinting at something is out past the unknown regions that is really scary, and maybe it is the Vong. You know, who knows? Like we'll find out at some point in this grand scheme of Star Wars storytelling. It seems, but it looks like it was possible to get an alien encounter X-Files style with the Yuzhong Vong.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's a way that they introduce. Well, what's coming out first, the next Star Wars movie or this?
So the problem is we don't have a concrete date on the Disney streaming service, but I have a feeling this may come first.
Oh, you think they're that close on the streaming service? Okay, I don't know if they are or not. It's certainly possible.
Yeah.
I would say that if we are introduced to the Yuzhong Vong in the movie, like at the end of the movie, like with Kylo or whatever, maybe that's the thing that forces them to like start to work together and find balance. Is an outside threat.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah. That would be interesting.
But see, would that be that wouldn't be the end of the Skywalker saga then?
I mean, you could wrap it up with them defending and just saying that, you know, you can have some kind of conclusion to their story.
Yeah.
Or do they both have to die in your
No,
mind?
I don't think they have to die. Because it does. Kathleen Kennedy has also said. So she said she wants to do movies in the future, and she left Kylo Ren off the list, but she said Rey, Finn, and Poe specifically.
All have to live.
They don't have to live.
But she wants to do things with them.
Yeah,
right?
in the future. And that doesn't mean Kylo Ren dies by any means.
No.
So
no, it just means she left him off the list.
Right. Because I think
she could have said, yeah, she's like, yeah, Kylo Ren dies, but Ben Solo, I totally want to see more Ben Solo.
Right.
You know.
Well, I think you want to keep some mystery, obviously, to that. I mean,
of course.
You know.
Yeah, of course.
And clearly, I mean, she's obviously talking about the heroes of the story, and those are the characters that, you know, kids and most people are gravitating towards in a big way. Sure, a lot of us fanboys love gravitating towards the villain. Which, you know, we really need to evaluate that, guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's more from the perspective of like, oh, your heroes could go on another adventure in the same way Indiana Jones could go on another adventure type of thing.
Of course,
you know?
yeah.
So.
Yeah. I agree. I don't know if we'll get this story or not. It seems... I don't think. Again, this one's a coin toss.
Yeah.
I don't know. It depends on where they're taking.
If it's a single episode X-Files style, I think it's a possibility, especially if there's another function. Like, because here's the problem: we don't know what kind of character development is happening in this episode in an X-Files style story.
Who's involved? Yeah,
right? Is Obi-Wan, Anakin, Rex,
Yoda?
Yeah. So like, I don't think if it's Kit Fisto or Plo Koon or Luminara, I don't think we're gonna see this particular one. You know, although maybe we finally get our Ki-Adi-Mundi story because we never got one with him.
Yeah, maybe it's him, and I actually would be okay with that because although if he's not involved on the Battle of Kashyyyk, game over.
He's not there though.
He's got to be involved somehow. Like,
well, we know Yoda's the one who has good relations with them. It wasn't like Yoda's like, oh yeah, Ki-Adi and I have good relations with the Wookiees. Like, or does Ki-Adi have bad relations?
It's just like Ki-Adi is just a little too obsessed about the Wookiees. Okay, like,
is he just a little bit of a dick to them?
A little bit. Yeah. But like, we can't bring him. It's a problem. Like, or yeah, who knows? Maybe his race eats Wookiees. Like, Wookiee meat is like their favorite thing on the planet. Like, that's who the Trandoshan's are always catching them and selling them to, is Ki-Adi-Mundi's
I just
planet.
forgot what the name of Ki-Adi-Mundi's race is.
I can't remember either.
It's Syrian.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I wanted to role play a Syrian and call him Ki-Adi Thomas.
You magnificent son of a bitch. That was great. All right. What's the next story? How many of these possibilities do we have? These last two. These are the last two.
Yep.
Here we go.
So the next one is the political crisis on Mon Cala. And it would have brought us back to Mon Cala. Lichar is already has just become king based on the series of episodes that we had already had with him and Akbar and the Quarren and the civil war that they had there, and the Republic helps. That's an series of episodes that already exist in the Clone Wars. But they kind of delve a little bit into the rival faction on Mon Cala, the Quarren. And, you know, they've become a little bit more discontented. The story was going to be a little bit more political, involve Anakin and Padme. They would have taken a closer look at just dealing with the Quarren instead. It turns out that the Quarren leader gets murdered, but Padme is trying to work with them to kind of oppose Palpatine's extended stay in office. So this, you know, political maneuvering of Palpatine versus Padme at this point. So, which they value the political episode. So I think this is a possibility, but I think because we got some pretty significant Mon Cala story already, I think we might lose this particular set of episodes.
Yeah, but you get Anakin, Padme.
That's a big deal.
Palpatine.
Yeah, so there's definitely good cause for it, and I would be down for it.
Yeah,
because
you could really move all three of those people's story forward pretty significantly with this arc.
Right. And Clone Wars did a very fantastic job with a lot of their political storytelling. So the last series is the Siege of Mandalore, and we've had a lot of detail discussed in fact, I think we discussed this in one of our early episodes, A Certain Point of View, when Filoni talked about what would have happened during this series. Because like, this is like when Filoni just talked about it, I teared up. Like the way he talked about this particular story, but it essentially would have involved Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan reuniting for one last mission, along with Rex, as they tried to unseat Darth Maul from power in Mandalore. Because sort of the last thing we saw was him taking over Mandalore. He defeated Pre Vizsla. We had Sabine's sister sort of leave the Death Watch, and at this point, and we're getting this story for sure. At this point, it's confirmed. We even see a nod to it in the trailer. We see Ahsoka with Satine's sister, so we're definitely getting some extra story here. But we know that this from how Filoni has talked about the story, and so I'm going to leave this out, the details of the story out. So if you want to look for it, go ahead. It's on the internet. You can definitely find it if you look for it. But there's some really cool character beats in here. Especially for the relationship between Ahsoka and Anakin. But
And the clones.
What I will say is, from what I understand, this will, not if, they're doing the story. This story bridges right at the moment, right into the Battle of Coruscant. So this is a direct handoff to that. Not necessarily for all the characters here, but definitely for some of them. And there is the potential for Order 66 to happen during this series of episodes. So we will find out if that happens, and if that happens, we get some pretty amazing story. Even if it doesn't happen, we get some pretty amazing story. Just the lead up, like some of the early part of this story is absolutely amazing and heartwarming, and man, it's some of the best of Clone Wars that is out there, and I'm eagerly awaiting for it. So if you just one thing to know, the poster that exists for the new season of Clone Wars features a helmet that is part of this series of episodes. So
yeah, and this isn't even a question of whether or not this is definitely happening. Now, whether it plays out exactly how it's been described to us, you never. With Filoni, there's going to be some twists, right? Like, you're not going to get it straight from Filoni. So this storyline is the one. Like, you could do all 12 episodes for this storyline and forget all the rest as far as I'm concerned. This is the one I want to see. This is the one that I'm here for. Because this really wraps up pretty much everybody's story that you really need to wrap up in this story. Because everybody else's story, like Obi-Wan and Anakin and Padme, like, their stories all get wrapped up in the movie.
Right?
Like, you just have to make sure that they're at the right spot. The people whose story you don't know really is Ahsoka and Rex.
Right. And this will contain that story.
Yeah, and this handles that. So, yeah, we're definitely getting this. How much of the 12 seasons is going to be this? I would imagine half.
Yeah. Yeah, at least 4 for sure. At least 4.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I am super excited for this series of episodes. So, it'll be a lot of fun. So, let us know what you think. What do you expect? Like, do you think there's certain stories that we just glossed over that will get adapted? Do you think there are other stories? I'm sure there are stories that they haven't talked about as well that'll probably make it as well. That's what we're not factoring in here at all. So, what other story, potential, what other character beats do you think might be there? You can always let us know. Just go to our website. All our social media is available there. You can go to certainpov.com. While you're there, you can check out all of our other podcasts. Please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the ones that you like. All of them, again, are on our website at certainpov.com. And until next week, stay scruffy, my nerf herders.